The WNBA is one of the easiest markets to win in all of sports betting, and most people have no idea. The proof is hiding in plain sight. The sportsbooks limit you harder on WNBA than any other sport. They don't do that because it's hard to beat, they do it because it's easy to beat. I got a 1099 from PrizePicks last season, meaning I made enough on WNBA alone that the IRS wanted its cut. The second that PrizePicks figured that out, they dropped me to a $5 limit on every single entry. That's not bad luck, that's what happens when the market is inefficient and you're on the right side of it. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 things that I do to find that edge. Things the books already know that most bettors have never even heard of. 3 edges. I'm going to show you all 3. In order, the most powerful one first. Edge 1, stale lines. WNBA lines move slower and sit wrong longer than any other major sport, and I'll show you the exact 2 windows to attack them in. Edge 2, following the whales. When the books limit, the big sharp money has to go somewhere. It goes to what's called exchanges. I'll show you how to watch it move in real time. Edge 3, positive correlation. How to build PrizePicks slips optimally where your legs actually help each other and improve the overall percent odds to hit. None of this advice is picks. This is a framework that you can run every single night of the season. Let's get into it. First, why do most people lose money on WNBA props? It's not bad luck. It's that they're using the casual playbook on the market the casual playbook wasn't built for. And here's exactly what a casual does. They open up PrizePicks and they pull up the player's last 5 game logs, last 10 logs, whatever. They look at a matchup. Oh, she's going up against a weak defense. Or maybe the opposing player is worse at rebounding. They check on the team's win-loss record, see that they're on a hot streak, decide the offense is in rhythm. Maybe they look at home versus away games, or whether it's on a back-to-back, or recent minute trends. They piece all of that information together, they see 3 overs that look good, and then they smash a slip. Here's the problem with every one of those signals. The sportsbooks already looked at them. Last 5 games, priced in. The matchup, priced in. Team record, home court, back-to-backs, pace of play, minute trends, defensive rankings, all of this is already sitting inside the number PrizePicks is showing you. The market didn't miss the matchup. Thousands of sharp bettors, professional analysts, and automated models already ate that information and moved the line. Here's the thing. You are not finding an edge off data the market already had weeks ago. The only things that aren't immediately priced in are the things that happen after the line gets set. Maybe a late scratch an hour before tip, a lineup change, a pace shift from a game that just finished. See, that's the gap, not the matchup, the timing. And in the WNBA, that gap is wider than anywhere else. Less public data, fewer analysts, less money in the market. Lines just stay wrong longer in WNBA. That edge is exactly the one you want to exploit. And that edge is called attacking stale lines. And there are 2 specific windows where WNBA lines go stale almost every single day. Window 1 is right before tip-off. And here's why this works. WNBA news drops late. Injury reports, a coach's pregame comments, who's actually starting. A lot of that settles in the last hour or 2 before the game start. When that news lands, the sharp sportsbooks reprice instantly. PrizePicks does not. PrizePicks is a fixed payout platform. It does not move its number every time a sharp sportsbook moves. There's a lot of reasons for this, but one of the main reasons that PrizePicks is not as sharp as these other sportsbooks is simply because these other sportsbooks have been around longer. They've had more time to develop better algorithms. They have more money pouring in and out of these lines. PrizePicks isn't even 10 years old yet. So for a certain window of time, you've got the old stale number sitting on PrizePicks, while the rest of the sharp market has already moved. Here's a real example of exactly what this looks like. Last night for Sabali on the Toronto Tempo, PrizePicks had her points projection sitting at 10.5. But look at what DraftKings and FanDuel had done. The sharp books had already moved their line down to 9.5. A full point lower. The market that sees the most action, the sharpest money in women's basketball, has already repriced this line, and PrizePicks hadn't caught up yet. And for the WNBA specifically, FanDuel and DraftKings are the books to watch. They take the most action on women's basketball, so their projections are the truest read on where the real market is. FanDuel especially doesn't limit winners as fast as the other rec books, which means its numbers stay sharp and usable longer. So what does that mean for your slip? PrizePicks is offering you an under at a number that the sharpest books in the world have already said is too high. The market moved. PrizePicks didn't. And that gap is the edge. And all you had to do was compare two projections side by side. The only math that you need to know is your break-even percentage on each one of these slips. On a 6-pick flex, each leg needs to hit about 54.2% of the time just to break even. On a 3-man entry, you need 54.95% for your break even. When the sharp market has already moved a full point on the projection and PrizePicks hasn't moved at all, you're beating both those break even percentages by a wide margin. Now here's window 2 for attacking these stale lines in between games. The WNBA runs staggered start times. Games tip off at various times throughout the night, sometimes 7 o'clock, 7:30, 10 o'clock, which creates more opportunities to attack stale lines. And here's what most people don't realize. Once those early games tip off, the attention shifts. Everyone is watching the 7 o'clock game. The later games on the board, however, the sharp books are still repricing them in real time. But the majority of the casual money has moved on. And that's just one side of it. The other side is information. Once the other games are live, news starts flooding in all at once. All of this brand new information that didn't exist at noon, and every piece of it affects the projections for players in the later games. The games that haven't tipped off yet. The sharp market goes on and absorbs all of this immediately. PrizePicks is just slower, and it's showing you a number from before tip-off. So you really got two things that are happening at the same time in that window. Less attention on the later markets and a flood of new information that moves sharp lines. That combination creates more mispriced projections on PrizePicks than almost any other time during the day. So instead of locking in one slip at 6 p.m. and hoping, you're checking back in between tip-offs because the board is repricing all night and PrizePicks is always a step behind. Here's how the in-between games window works in practice. It's an hour before the Indiana Fever tip-off. The injury report drops. Sophie Cunningham, one of the Fever's guards, is ruled out. That news hits the sharp books immediately, repricing Caitlin Clark's assist projection. Cunningham out means fewer playmaking options, more of the offense running through Clark, which also means, in return, more opportunities to rack up more assists. FanDuel moves Clark's assist line up from 7.5 to 8.5 within seconds of that report. PrizePicks still sitting at 7.5 5 minutes after the report. That game hasn't tipped off yet. You check this exact projection on PrizePicks before tip-off, and you see the gap. And as you should, you take the over on the number that PrizePicks hasn't updated. A piece of news that the market already reacted to, and PrizePicks is a step behind yet again. And that is Edge 1. You are watching the sharp market move and taking the number that PrizePicks hasn't corrected yet. Now, I said Edge 2 was about whales, big money, sharp money. And this is the part that most people have never even heard of, because it lives in the corner of betting that sportsbooks really don't want you looking at. Now stick with me, because this is where the WNBA edge gets really unfair. Edge 2. Follow the whales or sharp money. Here's a quick setup. A whale is a bettor moving large amounts of money, and whales in sports betting have a problem. Sportsbooks limit them, especially on a niche sport like the WNBA. And this isn't a conspiracy, it's their literal policy for sportsbooks to limit big winners. And in return, books set tiny limits on women's basketball because the market is thin. They don't want big sharp money on it. So if you're a whale who wants to get real size down on a WNBA prop, the sportsbook says no. So where does that money go? That money goes on what's called an exchange. Novig, Kalshi, ProfitX. These are not sportsbooks. They are peer-to-peer markets. You're betting against real people, other people, not against the house. So there's no house to limit you. The whales who got cut off by the books can finally get their size down here. And here's why that matters 10 times more in WNBA than something like NFL or even NBA. In a giant liquid market, one sharp bet is a drop in the ocean. In the WNBA, however, thin market, less money, less data. A single whale moving size on an exchange actually moves the price. Their conviction becomes visible. You can see it. And this is the tool that shows it to you. It's called Whale Watch on Upside.Tools. It tracks the sharp and whale money flowing through those peer-to-peer exchanges, Novig, ProfitX, Kalshi, and Polymarket. And it surfaces where the big confident money is landing real time. So now let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice. Chicago Sky versus the Toronto Tempo tonight. Whale Watch is showing $3,000 in whale volume on one single prop. Sabali, 5.5 rebounds over on PrizePicks. However, there's also one single bet on Novig, $3,000 at minus 121, which means a sharp sports bettor has set this exact price that is available on PrizePicks at minus 121 with his own money. That is also above the break-even line at minus 119 on PrizePicks. That's not someone guessing. That's a big, confident, sharp bettor who got limited everywhere else and is putting real size down on an exchange because it's the only place they can. So use that info to your advantage. Go on PrizePicks. Sabali rebounds over at 5.5 is sitting right there. The sharpest money, and the market just told you exactly what it thinks, and PrizePicks still hasn't moved. And that is the stack. Edge 1 tells you the line that mathematically is stale. Edge 2 tells you where the sharpest money in the world agrees. And these strategies are only possible in a sport small enough that one whale's bet actually shows up. And the WNBA is exactly that sport. Now let's go over the final strategy, which is called positive correlation. And with positive correlation, this shows you extra icing on the cake, how to build out your slip when you have an edge. And it's actually one that casual sports bettors never think about. Most people build out a slip out of random props that have nothing to do with one another. A scorer on Vegas, a rebounder in Indiana, an assist player in Seattle. Those legs don't talk to each other, which is fine on the surface. But why not increase your own percent odds to hit organically? Positive correlation means picking legs that tend to work together, where if one is winning, the other is more likely to be winning too. You want your legs to be rooting for the same outcome. And here's the cleanest WNBA version of that. Take two players on the same team. Player A points over and player B assists over. Now think about what an assist actually is. It's a pass that leads directly to a made basket. If player B is racking up those assists, somebody is making those shots. If player A is going over on points, she's making shots. Do you see the positive correlation? When that team's offense is clicking, both of those legs tend to hit at the same time because they are positively correlated. They help one another. Now compare that to a casual slip where every leg is independent. You're not helping yourself. Correlated legs means your slip has fewer real ways to lose. The outcomes are tied together instead of being 5 separate dice rolls. Now here's one honest catch, because this is where people mess it up. PrizePicks does know about positive correlation, and they actively detect the more obvious pairings, and they'll cut the payout or block the combo entirely. And they generally do catch the more obvious correlation combos. However, in WNBA, since it's a niche sport, it gets less attention. Smaller sport equals less policing. So honestly, you can stack an entire team's over assists and points and it not even nerf the payout. Go ahead, try it. So the build becomes this. Find your stale, sharp back legs from edges 1 and 2. Then, where you can, choose legs that are positively correlated with one another. Same team, same game script that PrizePicks hasn't flagged and hasn't adjusted the payout on. Now you've got a slip where the price is wrong in your favor, the sharp money agrees, and the legs all work together. That's all 3 edges in one single slip. And you put it in the right slip type. Remember, the break-even math, a 6-pick flex needs 54.2% per leg to break even, and a 3-man needs 54.95%. When every leg is mispriced, correlated, and has sharp back spots clearing that bar, these slip types give you the best chance to be profitable long term. Okay, so doing this all by hand is real work. It takes a long time. Think about it, pulling sharp book projections, comparing them against PrizePicks across every prop in WNBA, watching exchange money across 4 different platforms, and all of that work is unnecessary, and that's why I use one place that does it for me. Upside.Tools offers the tools you need to automate your process. The optimizer pulls in sharp books, FanDuel, DraftKings, and many others. and the exchanges on Whale Watch and puts their projections right next to PrizePicks so you can see the gap instantly. Edge 1, the stale line hunt, goes from an hour of manual work, possibly more, to a few seconds. You see exactly where PrizePicks is behind the market the moment it happens. And Whale Watch, the one I showed you with the Sabali example, tracks real sharp money across Novig, Kalshi, ProfitX, and Polymarket real time within seconds. So Edge 2 is just there on your screen at the moment a whale moves real money. I'm going to go ahead and put the link below to a 5-day free trial. The 3 edges work because the WNBA market is inefficient. The software just saves time and saves money. If you're interested in learning how these tools work real time, I'll go ahead and link a video.